Hey guys, it's Whitney. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be answering the questions from a book tag that Tiffany from Beautiful Minutia created. It's the LM MontgomerMAY book tag, and it goes along with her LM MontgomerMAY readathon this month. I've read 2 Anne books this month, and I've enjoyed both of them. And so I'm excited that she tagged me. This book tag is all about different characters from LM Montgomery's different works. So there are questions based on Anne or Emily from Emily of New Moon and all sorts of characters. So let's get right into the questions. Question number 1 is about Anne from Anne of Green Gables. And it says, Anne is an orphan who has long wished for a family of her own and a place to belong. Share a book that has a heartwarming found family element. Found family is one of my favorite things in a book. I love when books have that. It just, if it's here, it puts it up here for me. So a book that I recommend that has a found family element is A Place to Hang the Moon by Kate Albus. It's a middle grade novel. It's a historical fiction novel about a sibling set who has to leave their home in the city to go to the country during World War II, and their grandmother has just passed away. And so she hasn't left any sort of will or caretaker for them, and so they are kind of on a mission secretly to find what they hope to be their forever family. And it was just a really heartwarming book, and I don't know, I just really enjoyed reading it when I did, and the found family aspect was wonderful in it. Question number 2 is about Emily from Emily of New Moon, and it says, Emily was the character that LM Montgomery said was the most like herself. Which literary character do you most identify with? When I was a child, I was obsessed with Harriet the Spy, book and movie, and I remember wanting to be like Harriet, and so I would always have a notebook with me. I would take notes on my surroundings and all sorts of things, even to the point where my family owned their own business, and there was a fire out at the business when I was a child, and I remember taking notes about what could have really happened, what really set this fire. And my mom recently found these notes, and they're really kind of ridiculous and obviously not at all accurate, and it's just funny, you know, what children pick up on. But anyway, so I think Harriet the Spy was a literary character that I identified with so much as a child. Okay, question number 3 is about Rilla of Ingleside, and it says, Rilla's story takes place during World War I. What's a major world event that has taken place during your lifetime? Recommend a book that includes that event in some way. Okay, so I'm going to be stretching this one a little bit, actually a lot of bit. I'm going to be stretching this one, but the first event that came to mind is 9/11. I remember where I was when I heard the news about 9/11. I remember that day so vividly, but I don't really think that I've read any novels pertaining to that event. And then the other event, of course, that I thought of was COVID. But the books that I've read that have featured that as a topic or just in the background, I've not really enjoyed, so I'm not going to recommend those. So I'm stretching it. The book I'm going to recommend is Upstairs at the White House by J.B. West. And like I said, this has nothing to do with 9/11, but it does have something to do with the presidency, which I mean kind of ties in a little bit maybe. But anyway, I really, really enjoyed this book. It's a nonfiction, and it's written by J.B. West, who was like the head butler, maybe the head person in the White House that took care of all of the First Lady's needs. So if they were throwing a dinner party, he would arrange all of that, or if they wanted to re-wallpaper their rooms or redecorate their rooms, he would get that in charge, or he would be in charge of that. And you know, just all the little mundane things that the First Ladies do. And it was such a neat look into the life of a First Lady. He served nearly 3 decades, and so he was in the White House when the Roosevelts, the Kennedys, and the Nixons were there, I believe. I believe that's accurate, but it was one of my favorite books of 2021. I really, really enjoyed it, and I mean, I'd actually like to reread it again at some point, but I know it's a stretch, but it's kind of, you know, kind of similar, not really at all, but we'll go with it. That's the book I'm going to recommend. Question number 4 is about Kilmeny of Kilmeny of the Orchard. And it says, Kilmeny loves to play the violin. How does music play a role in your life? Playing an instrument, songs that mean a lot to you, etc. So music actually plays a really big role in my life and the life of my family. I am not musically inclined. I sing a lot, but I don't do it well. I don't play an instrument. However, my son is extremely musically inclined. He is self-taught on the piano and guitar. He can play by ear as well as read notes. And he sings all the time. I mean, if you know Aiden, you know that he sings all the time. He sings every week almost at church for the youth. And he even writes his own songs. And so I love that Aiden's music is kind of like the background of my life here at home. And I don't know, I just love it. I love hearing him play the piano or pick up his guitar. I love hearing the original songs that he sings as well as the worship songs that he sings and whatever artist he's into at the moment. It differs quite often. He changes what he's listening to. But yeah, my son is really very musical and it's a big part of our lives. Another thing that I really like to do is I like to make playlists that are specific to whatever event or season that we're doing. So for example, when we drove cross country to California, I created a playlist that we listened to on our way to California. And so some of those songs, if we hear them on the radio or something today, my kids will be like, oh, that reminds me of XYZ, you know, whatever happened on that trip. And I love that is what music does for us. It opens up a memory that we may not have associated with that song until we do. And I don't know, I've made playlists since I was in high school. It's just something that I do. So we love music in our household. Question number 5 is about Sarah from Story Girl. Sarah loves to tell stories to anyone who will listen. Share a short story collection that you love. I'm going to be honest, I don't know. I don't read a lot of short stories. I don't dislike them, but I don't seek them out. And so I couldn't name a collection of short stories that I could recommend. However, there are some short stories that I will recommend. I really enjoy, of course, The Gift of the Magi by O. Henry. That's a classic for a reason. Another one is The Yellow Wallpaper or The Lottery. Those were 2 that I also enjoyed, but I always leave a short story wanting more. And so if you have an author or a collection of short stories that you would recommend that does a good job of, you know, saying what they need to say in a short amount of pages, I would love to have that suggestion. Question number 6 is about Pat from Pat of Silver Bush. And it says, Pat is a homebody. She loves her home and her family and has no desire to ever leave them. What does home mean to you? Is there a literary home you would love to live in? Home to me means the people that are here with me. It means, you know, my kids and my husband and my family and friends. We have a small home and it's very loud, but not like bad loud, good loud, you know, like there's music playing or there's children, you know, laughing or doing something. My door is always open in the summer and I hear kids run in and out all day and I love it. I love that energy that my home has, but I also love the peace that it provides after a long day when we come home and we can just relax and just be ourselves with the people that we love. I love that. So home is not necessarily my house, it's the people in my house. And, you know, we take that with us wherever we go. For example, we go to Gulf Shores for vacation nearly every year. And when we pull onto that strip, we all kind of like a sigh of relief, like, oh, here we are, we're home, you know, even though we don't live there. So the second part of the question, what literary home would I like to visit? I would like to visit the Burrow, the Weasley's home in Harry Potter. I love the Burrow. It kind of reminds me of my own home. It's loud and boisterous and things are always happening, but it's where everybody wants to be. Everybody wants to congregate in the Burrow because of the people. And I don't know, every time I read about it, it's cozy and comforting, and I would love to visit it one day, which obviously will never happen, but that's okay. Question number 7 is about Valancy from the Blue Castle, and it says, Valancy is a character who longs to push past family pressures and expectations and carve out her own path to find happiness. What's a book that inspired you to overcome difficulty in your life? Okay, well, I'm a Christian, and so my first answer is always the Bible. If I am having a bad day, or if I am struggling, I'm going to get in the Word and encourage myself that way. But if we're talking about novels, I would say something nostalgic from my childhood, something that brought me comfort in my childhood is something that I would like to return to now if I'm struggling. So things like Winnie the Pooh, or Little House on the Prairie, or Anne of Green Gables. Those types of books, when I pick them up, it's always just so nostalgic for me, and I love the feeling that I get when I read them. Question number 8 is about Jane from Jane of Lantern Hill, and it says, Jane desperately wants a second chance for her parents, a chance to be part of a family where both of her parents are present. What's a book that you had DNF'd but connected with you when you gave it a second chance? Okay, I'm going to give a book recommendation, but I also want to give a disclaimer that this book is a fantasy book, and it's got a lot of language, and I normally don't like a lot of language, and so that's actually one of the reasons I DNF'd it in the first place. It's The Lies of Loch Lamora by Scott Lynch is the book that I'm talking about. And another reason I DNF'd it at first was because I just could not, the first few chapters, I could not get into the story. And so I put it down. I didn't read it for months. And then I rechecked it out from the library. And the second time I tried to read it, I loved this book, even though it's a book that I normally would not really like. It's, like I said, it has quite a bit of language, and it's just kind of dark and gritty and difficult at times, but it was, I don't know, it was really, really good after I gave it that second go round. So yeah, The Lies of Loch Lamora. Question number 9 is about Marigold from Magic for Marigold. Marigold is one of the few Montgomery protagonists who we only experience in childhood. She is very imaginative and loves the outdoors. What were some of your favorite things to do as a child? If you had a favorite childhood book that fed your imagination, please share that as well. So I just talked about some of my favorite books as a child, so I won't go into that. But if I wasn't reading when I was a kid, I was outside. I had a trampoline in my backyard, and I would get underneath the trampoline, and I would pretend that that was my home, and like I had to prepare it for winter. And so I would gather all of these things like, sticks and berries and leaves and my provisions for winter, okay? So I would just make this my home. I had cousins that would come visit me every summer, and we would have Mario tournaments on the Nintendo, and I loved doing that in the summer with them. And we have so many inside jokes from those summers, and I loved when they would come in the summer and visit us. But anyway, that's a side tangent. So I would play outside a lot. I loved to write. I loved to journal. I loved to make up stories. So I was not an athletic child until I reached about middle school, and then I started playing volleyball, and I loved playing volleyball throughout middle school and high school. But as a smaller child, I mean, honestly, if I wasn't reading or writing or playing outside, I was probably asleep. That's really all I did. Just a typical childhood in the 90s. Question number 10 is about Aunt Becky from A Tangled Web. Aunt Becky is the matriarch of the Penhallow Dark family who causes quite a stir over who she will leave her prized heirloom jug to. Tell us about a book you have read that has a lot of family drama. Okay, so a book that I'm going to recommend for this is We Are the Brennans by Tracy Lang. And this book was all about a big, boisterous family. The daughter, Sunday, leaves 5 years prior to when the book starts. And we don't know exactly what blew up, but we know some drama happened to get her to leave. And something happens in her life and she has to come back home. And so she's got lots of older brothers, and it's just a big, loud, boisterous family. And along with that comes the drama of lots of children. And so I really enjoyed this book. I don't remember a whole lot about it. I read it several years ago, but I do remember that it was pretty drama filled, and it was about a large family. So I love books about large families. So that would be the book that I recommend for this prompt. Okay, and so the last question is just tag some fellow LM Montgomery lovers. I don't really know too many people that do booktube that I could tag. So I guess I would just say if you want to do this tag, I'll leave the questions in the description below and feel free to answer these questions as well. Okay, so that's it for today. Thanks for listening as I answered all of these tag questions. Thank you to Tiffany from Beautiful Minutia for tagging me and creating this tag. So thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.